Hello, it's Dr. Chris from the 100X Mobile Vet. Today, we're gonna talk about how I and my team are gonna help you with your reactive, grumpy dog who doesn't wanna have much part in veterinary medicine, who's maybe failed in the vet clinics, or you just wanna see them more comfortable. You just want a better experience for them. So let's start here. Mad Max. If you're old like me, you're gonna remember Mad Max, the second one, not the third one with Tina Turner Beyond Thunderdome, not the first one with baby Mel Gibson, the second one. And in the second one, there was this cool dog. I remember being a little kid and I was like, what kind of dog is this? This is the best dog ever. This was a blue heeler, otherwise known as an Australian cattle dog. Amazing dog. And we're gonna talk about Mad Max's dog because it's got everything to do with yours. So this dog is one of the most famous dogs in movie history. He's up there, right? And unlike the Disney movies where there's like, what's the dog, the retriever who plays football or soccer, you know, they had like a number of those dogs who played that role. This amazing little blue heeler who sat beside Mad Max in this post-apocalyptic world almost didn't exist. Now why? Just before the movie was going to be filmed, this little guy named Dog was sitting in a shelter scheduled for euthanasia. He was labeled a problem dog. Now, why did he get labeled a problem dog? Well, he was too focused, had too much energy. He was chasing tires. He was very intense. He was very smart. He was hyper intelligent. He was super vigilant about everything about him. And so he was hard to handle. He was even considered aggressive. But one day, an animal trainer walked in, saw him while he was on doggy death row back in the 1970s, threw a pebble in front of him, and watched how he locked onto it like a laser, like a cat playing a laser toy, right? And in that moment, she realized this wasn't a bad dog. This was simply a brilliant dog with nowhere to put his energy. So instead of suppressing him, she redirected him. She used his instincts, his talent of chasing, focusing, locking onto movement for the movie. And so this problem dog who was in a shelter about to be euthanized instead turned into one of the most iconic dogs in movie history. Wow! Now why am I telling you this story? It's because in vet medicine, I see the same thing every single day. Reactive dogs, fear-aggressive dogs, scared dogs, bad dogs. Most of these aren't bad dogs. They're smart dogs who are simply in the wrong environment, and we have to redirect what they're focused on. Some of these are simply terrified, scared dogs pushed past their limit. Dog on set of Mad Max had his limits too. He actually hated to be in cars, and they had to use treat motivation and a number of different things to help him through that fear. It took time, it took effort, it took redirection, but when you use these tools, it is often successful. And when we approach dogs like this, maybe your dog, the wrong way, you know, high fluorescent lights, car rides, they know it's a 2 lefts and a right, and then they're gonna come into the clinic, there's a slippery table, they've had maybe experiences in the past that they don't enjoy, we create the exact reaction we're trying to avoid. One of the ways I like to put it is the energy we give is the energy we get. So with the 100X Mobile Vet, if you've got a dog like this, we reinvent medicine Mad Max style. Let me explain how. Okay, so for half of your dogs who have maybe been labeled this way, or you're not comfortable with how they're responding in a clinic, they're not very happy, they're baring their teeth, maybe they're talking about it, maybe they're outright lunging, maybe, you know, whatever it is. Half of them just need that different environment. What is the environment? The environment is your home. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen pets at a clinic. And by the way, this isn't the clinic's fault. The clinic is the clinic. They're gonna do the best that they can, right? They can't help that the environment is the environment. However, many dogs I've been to their home, and all of a sudden, where drugs have and sedation in a clinic environment have failed in the past, they just needed someone to come over and be a guest, not be clinical, be a friend. So for half of dogs, it's part environment. What else for these half of dogs? Well, maybe when they're in their home environment, they like treats, they like food. Because they're in their home environment and they're feeling good about themselves, they accept it. And then I can desensitize them to the process of whatever we need to do, whether it be vaccine, whether we have to check out something on them medically, whatever it is, sometimes that is the thing that gets them there. Just like Dog from Mad Max. It was just a shift in environment took bad dog characteristics and moved it into, oh, I can just be myself and I'm okay. This is working out for me. For some dogs, just like the dog from Mad Max in the car, we just have to come up with proper distractions, right? Take this brilliant, amazing, gigantic German Shepherd I saw the other day. I will walk into his home. He will bark and be very reactive and very intimidating for most people who would see him. I could see him going to the clinic and then all of a sudden hell breaks loose. You know, we're gonna wanna put a muzzle on him right away. Not at home. I come to the kitchen table. I have some amazing coffee while I'm there. I let him calm down and then we talk. What does he like? What doesn't he like? And this is what we figured out for his vaccine. All we had to do is take him to a bathtub. He's really into a shower head and water, and we sprayed, and I was able to get his booster in. He was none the wiser. This is an amazing distraction. I didn't have to use drugs. I didn't have to use sedation. All I had to use was some creativity and follow his path, follow his lead. What is it that you want? Where can I put that brilliant, hypervigilant brain so you feel comfortable? And it totally worked. For some dogs, it's what I call the pick up technique. They're hanging around, and for certain individuals, not all dogs, but for some, their owners can actually just pick them up. And if you can pick them up, what happens? They're floating in the air and their brain's like, I'm in the air and I don't know why. In that moment, while they're contemplating, while they're floating in the air, boom, boom, vaccines, done. I can check out something on their body I needed to check out. Before they know what's going on, they're back on the ground, then accepting treats. The whole thing works quite well. For some dogs, it's an elevated surface, right? I don't have to have them on the ground. For other dogs, there just needs to be multiple hands. Someone's gonna pat up here, there's gonna be another hand over here, and then they kind of forget how many hands a human has. And so my hand's going over here doing some procedure or vaccination or whatever. There's another hand giving pats. There's more hands up there. There's so many hands happening. And if they're comfortable with that, if they say yes to that, we can get things done as well. So for half of dogs, it's home environment. It's showing up as a friend. It's not being clinical. It's finding what treat, what distraction, what technique they need. And for 50% of dogs who are labeled as reactive or fear aggressive, it works. So what about the other half of dogs? Well, no problem. I don't even worry about that at all. It's actually even kind of easier. Let me tell you why. For the other half of dogs, if those initial techniques don't work, your dog, some of them, it's almost like PTSD. They've had previous experiences where they're so intelligent and so one with their memories. The second you look like you're gonna do something that they've experienced before, they're already on DEFCON 1. They're already on high level alert. Some of these dogs are even running low with a little bit of serotonin. They're already jacked up with anxiety. They need some help to simply make different choices in their life with things that you want us to do to help them, to protect their health, right? I do use some medications. I try to reduce anxiety, bring up some serotonin, work with them differently to make some different choices. Now I know what you're gonna say. What's the common meds that's used for this? Some of you will be able to say this by heart. Gabapentin and trazodone. And I know what you're gonna say next. I tried that for my dog in clinic. I gave him the gabapentin, I gave him the trazodone, even tried to up the dose. Total failure. All that happened is he got a little bit drowsy at home, drowsy in the car. I brought him to the clinic. All hell broke loose. Drugs didn't work. Brought him back home, and then he fell asleep. Okay? I know this. I know that this happens. And so what I'm gonna say is, that's not a problem, because for me, for any of these dogs in this second category, it's just the foundation. It's just something that I'm gonna use to help move the needle towards having them make new choices. So I may still give that gabapentin and trazodone, but for most of these dogs in the second category, I'm going to just go a little bit further. What do I mean by that? Here's why the gabapentin and trazodone failed for your dog. Your dog has something called first pass metabolism. What does that mean? The medication we give you, goes into their mouth, then they swallow it down, then it goes in their stomach already. There's digestive enzymes breaking that stuff down. Then it's gotta go to the small intestine, absorb to the body, then it hits the liver. What is the liver's job? The liver is there to detoxify, to take out things before it hits the central nervous system where these drugs have effect. So maybe for your dog, some dogs are just so talented at this, right? 20-30% of what we gave them is maybe hitting their brain. It is insufficient. What does that tell you? We have to use their body with us and not against us. What does that mean? From there, I'm usually gonna bypass the gastrointestinal tract, and that means I'm giving you something transmucosal. What does that even mean? Very often, a highly successful technique is you get a little syringe from me. And maybe for your dog, you've even got to get them used to syringe. You put a treat in there before I even show up, right? Days before, weeks before, and you're giving him food with the syringe, or you're just laying it on the floor with his food bowl, especially for some dogs that are hyper vigilant. Any new object is something to be suspicious of, right? And you're slowly going through this process till they're feeling good. Maybe you put something yummy in there, whatever they enjoy, you squirt that in the mouth, you just get them used to that, right? Then, on the day, I put something in that syringe called dexmedetomidine. What is that? It is something that if you give it through the mouth, it's very flavorless, and you get it in a treat pouch or over the tongue, they're not designed, you don't want them to eat it or ingest it. It actually goes through the capillaries in their mouth, through the tissues, straight into the bloodstream, bypasses all the other parts of the body that these dogs are genius at absorbing and extracting all these meds before it hits their brain. And then it goes straight to the brain. The success rate and the comfort level is so much higher. Doing it this way, we're literally protecting your dog's psychology. And so then you give that half an hour, 40 minutes before we show up, and then all of a sudden, we're either counting sheep or close to counting sheep. I cannot tell you how many times this has been successful. Inevitably, I know some of it, they might swallow it, they might go on their fur, on their face, it might hit the floor. Sometimes I need you to give a little bit of a top up. That's okay. We always are very flexible and we know how to do these things. So once I have this pet sedated, do I need to do blood work, look in the mouth, look in the teeth, check the ears, give a vaccine, draw some blood, whatever it is, I give another one that actually wakes them back up. So I don't leave them in that state, they're reversed. I've been doing this for 20 years, knock on wood, never had a problem one time. All right, there's a very small proportion of dogs where, you know what, they need a bit of a different approach. I've been known to make little meatballs. Here's me in my chef outfit. I cook in the oven, and then I lace the meatballs with special ingredients that your dog can ingest. It's stronger than gabapentin or trazodone or any one of these things, and it can get them even just closer to being drowsy. Some of these dogs, if you can't even go near their mouth, there's no chance you could put a syringe in there. There are other ways I work with them. I try to get them as workable as possible, and then I have to give them injection in their butt, in their muscle. That's almost a guarantee that they're gonna go sleepy time. And for those percentage of dogs, I would say it is the least stressful way to do them. Instead of muzzles, instead of manhandling them or anything like that, that is another method that we do for our dogs. So that's for the outliers. That's for some dogs who need that approach. So when I hear someone say a dog's bad or fear aggressive or impossible to do things at the vet, I just think of Dog from Mad Max, scheduled from euthanasia to one of the most famous dogs. Now, how did he end up? After the shoot, people loved him and his personality so much that he actually went with a crew member. And that crew member kind of lived in a situation where it wasn't matching the energy level for this dog. So he eventually went to another crew member, I believe on a ranch, and he lived out his days beautifully. The moment someone understood exactly how his brain worked, everything changed. We can do this for you too when it comes to vet medicine and your dog. If you need to know more, just contact us. We go from fear to calmness, from panic to relax, from dogs who would snap to cooperation, for dogs who used to tremble in fear to having a gentle sleep. And suddenly, a vet appointment can be everything you always wanted it to be: calm, safe, and predictable. If you got a misunderstood dog in the wrong system, we're here to help. We're gonna give the fear and anxiety and stress hell, not your dog.